Hello, people. Welcome to today's paper review. We are going to be going over calculator paper 2 and 2025 November. And I want you to have your calculator by your side and let's just dive in. Okay. First question says write 5.63 times 10 to the power of 7 as an ordinary number. So my strategy with this kind of question is I write the number being given, which is 563, and then I put my spaces for my zeros, the number of zeros I'm going to have, which is 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I fill it with my zeros. That's my strategy. And so that is 56,300,000. Number 2 says write 0 points. I think I have 5 zeros there. So strategy again, write 3.54 times, I have 5 zeros before my first non-zero number, so that's 10 to the power of 5, and that's my answer. So let's check our mark scheme. So we have there for number 1, we have 56,300,000, that's correct. We have 3.54 times 10 to the power of 5, so that's correct. Going back to the question, number 2 says A is equal to 2 times 15 and B is equal to 8 times 5 times 7. It says write AB as a product of its prime factors. So AB as a product of its prime factors. AB is the same thing as A times by B, which is the product. And my A is 2 times by 15. And my B is 8 times by 5 times by 7. So having A there, that is 2 times by 15. And there's a prime number, and that is 3 times by 5. That's another prime number. So that's the same thing as 2 times by 3 times by 5. And 8 is the same thing as 2 times 2 times 2. Then that's 5 times by 7. That's my answer. Or I could simplify further to 2 to the power of 4 times by 3 times by 5 squared times by 7. That's my answer. Look at the mark scheme. We have 4 twos there, times by 3, 5 times 5 times by 7. You could leave your answer this way, or they will accept this answer as well. Simplified form. Number 3 says there are only black pens, green pens, red pens, pink pens, and orange pens in the box. And Kate is going to take at random a pen from the box. The table shows the probability that the pen will be red. So this is the table that shows that it will be red. Number of black pens, green pens, and red pens is 5 is to 2 is to 3. And we already know that the probability of red is 0.27, and that is worth 3 parts. So 3 parts is worth a probability of 0.27. So 1 part in my ratio should be what? 0.09. So that means that this is 0.27 red part. Sorry, for green, that's 2 parts, so that's 0.18. And for 5, that's 0.45. So I have there 0.45 for black, 0.18 for green. And the next statement says the number of pink pens is 4 times the number of orange pens. So for pink pens, it's 4 times the number of orange. So if X is for my orange, that means pink should be 4X. So we have 0.45 plus 0.18 plus 0.27 plus 4X plus X should give me 1. So 0.45 plus 0.18 plus 0.27 should give me 0.9 plus 5x is equal to 1. And now we have that 5x is equal to 1 minus 0.9 gives me 0.1. That means x is 0.1 divided by 5, which is 0.02. So that's the value of my x, which is for orange, the probability for orange. It says what kind of the probability that the pen will be black or pink. So for black, we have that as 0.45. So for pink, that is 4x, and that is 4 times 0.02, which is 0.08. So the probability that it is either black or pink will be 0.45 plus 0.08, which is 0.53. And that's my final answer. Let's look at the mark scheme. Number 3, that is 0.53, and that's correct. Number 4 says trains to London leave a train station every 26 minutes. Whenever we see questions like this that involves multiples, so every 26 minutes, and trains to Cardiff leave the train station every 30 minutes, the first thing that should come to our mind is lowest common multiples. That's the first strategy we should always use. So once that comes into your mind, you are sure of getting at least 1 mark, because once you start listing your multiples, you are guaranteed 1 mark. So it says a train to London and a train to Cardiff both leave the train station at 7:45 a.m. They both leave at that time. Show that the next time a train to London and a train to Cardiff both leave the train station at the same time is after 2 p.m. So when they both leave after that time again, should be after 2 p.m. So, so I'm going to use prime factor decomposition because I don't want to list out all the multiples of 26 and all the multiples of 30. But if you find that way better, feel free to use the multiples of 26 and 30. So for 26, I have that as 2 times by 13. They are both prime numbers. For 30, I have 2 times 15, and I have 3 times by 5. They are both prime numbers. And then this is for 26 and this is for 30. They both have 2 in them, so 2 goes in the middle. And for 26, 13 is left there. For 30, I have 3 and 5. Now the lowest common multiple is now 13 times by 2 times by 5 times by 3. And that gives me, this gives me 10, that gives me 39, so that gives me 390. So 390 minutes later, they are going to leave the train station together. So I'm going to convert that into hours and minutes, just so I can simplify it. I know I have 300 minutes and I have 90 minutes. So that gives me 5 hours because 1 hour is 60 minutes, and that gives me 1 hour and 30 minutes. So starting from 7:45 a.m., I am going to add 5 hours. So once I add that onto it, I take it off so that I don't use it again. So adding 5 hours to that, I'm going to have 12:45 p.m. And then I add 30 minutes onto that. So I add 30 minutes, and that takes me to 1:15. So that takes me to 1:15 p.m. And then I add my 1 hour again onto that. That takes me to 2 hours. So that takes me to 2:15. Sorry, 15 p.m. So I've shown now that the next time they leave together is after 2 p.m. So that's my working, and that's the answer. Let's check the mark scheme. So we can see the shown with supportive working, and I can see the 14:15 is the time, and I can see 390 minutes as well. So that's what they're looking for. Number 5, it says here is a rectangle which is here. 4 of these rectangles and a shaded square are used to make the square of ABCD. Perimeter of the square ABCD is 74 cm. So we are trying to find out the perimeter of the shaded part. Before we find that out, we know that this length is 2x, And we know that this is x minus 4. And that means that this as well is x minus 4. That means from A to B, total length is 2x plus x minus 4, which is 3x minus 4. That's A, B is of that length. That means same thing as well. B to C is going to be the same length. So the perimeter of ABC is equal to 4 times 3x minus 4, which should give me 74. That gives me 12x minus 16 is equal to 74, and 12x is equal to 90, and x is equal to 90 divided by 12, which is 7.5. So my x is 7.5. So this required length that I want is 2x minus x minus 4. That's what I need there. So if I have 2x minus x minus 4, that's the same thing as 2x minus x plus 4. We need to be careful of the negative numbers. That's x plus 4. And my x is 7.5. So I have 7.5 plus 4. That's 11.5. So each of this side is of 11.5 cm. So the perimeter of the new shaded area is going to be 4 lots of 11.5. And that is 44 plus 2, which is 46 cm. That's my final answer. So my final answer is 46 cm. Let's look at the mark scheme. That's 46 cm. Number 6 says the number of diesel cars sold in the UK decreased by 13% between 2021 and 2022. So there was a decrease of 13% between those years. The number of diesel cars sold in the UK in 2022 is 160,950. It says calculate the number of diesel cars sold in the UK in 2021. So we're trying to find what was sold in 2021. Whenever we are doing a calculator paper and percentages come up, it's always advisable for us to use the multiplier method. So what do I mean by that, and how do I find my multiplier? I have a decrease of 13%, so that is 100 take away 13, and that gives me 87%. I convert that 87% into a decimal, and that gives me 0.87. This is my multiplier. That means if I multiply any number by 0.87, it means I've decreased that number by 13%. So I'm going to multiply what we had in 2021 by 0.87 to get this. And x now becomes 160,950 divided by 0.87, and that gives me 185,000. Number 7 says 450 grams of flour. So flour is 450 grams. It's mixed with butter 180 grams to make a pastry of 630 grams. The density, this was the mass, the density of flour is 0.6 grams per cm cube. The density of the pastry is 0.672 grams per cm cube. Work out the density of the butter. Density is measured in gram per centimeter cube, and my gram represents mass and the cm cube is for volume. Now you can now use your formula that you always remember, which says that your density is your mass over your volume. So for us to find our volume now, we need to find our volume for each one. The volume for flour is going to be mass over the density, which is 750 cm cube. The volume for the pastry is also going to be mass over density, 937.5 cm cube. So now we can find the volume of the butter, which is 187.5 cm cube. We can now find the density, which is going to be mass over volume, 180 over 187.5, which is 0.96 grams per cm cube. 185,000, that was correct, and 0.96, that's correct as well. Number 8 says, the diagram shows a solid cone. Calculate the total surface area of the cone. Give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. So our answer has to be in 3 significant figures, and they've given us the formula for the curved surface area of the cone. Now, for us to find the total surface area of the cone, we need to find the area of the entire surface, which they've given us as pi RL, and we need to add it to the area of the circular part, which is pi radius squared. I'm going to leave my answers in pi first, so that I don't approximate. R is 4, but diameter is 8. So that's 4, and slant height, which is L, is 12.8. And then we have pi times radius is 4 squared, which is 16. I'm going to put that in my calculator. So we have 256 over 5 pi plus 16 pi. And that gives me 211.1150.0263. They want to answer the 3 significant figures. The first 3 numbers should stay. The next one is 1 less than 5. So that is 211 area. So that should be cm squared. That's my answer for number 8. That's 211. That's correct. Number 9 says the weight of an elephant is 4,100 kilograms. Correct to the nearest 50 kilograms. Complete the error interval for the weight of the elephants. So we have 4,100 kilograms. The next nearest one is 4,150. The one below it is 4,050. In between it, I have 4,125. In between that, I have 4,075. And that is my error interval. (4,075) and 4,125. Number 10 says, here are 4 equations. A is equal to A is y is equal to 4x, B is this, C is that and that. And the table gives 2 statements about x and y. Match each statement to the letter of the equation that represents the statement. Y is directly proportional to x. So by directly proportional to x, that means for an increase in x, we have an increase in y. For an A is a linear equation. B is also linear, but I can see that A starts from the origin. B does not start from the origin. It starts from an intercept of 3. So I'm going to go with A as the direct proportion. And B, the second statement says y is inversely proportional to x. So that means as one value increases, the other value decreases. The only inverse proportion there is C. We'll look at the mark scheme for that. That's A and C. That's correct. Number 11, expand and simplify x plus 4, x minus 3, x plus 6. I'm going to advise you, this question comes out every single year. If I look at the last 5 years, I'm going to see a triple bracket. It's always going to be 3 marks. Always going to be 3 marks. So I would advise you, practice this, master it, because you're going to see it in your exam. Yep. And there are 2 ways we could solve this. We could solve it using the grid, or we could solve it just by expanding our brackets. I am going to just choose to solve with the grid because I think that is a very structured approach and students kind of like that method. So let's go with the grid. So x and 4 goes there. We have x and minus 3. That gives me x squared. That gives me 4x. That gives me minus 3x. And that gives me minus 12. Now these are like terms. So that gives me x squared plus x minus 12. I'm going to multiply this now with the next brackets. So that means I am going to draw one that can accommodate 3 terms now. So I have my x squared there. I have my x and I have my minus 12. And then I'm going to use my x there, and then I'm going to use my 6. Multiplying out now, I have, let me use a black pen now. I have x cubed, x squared, and minus 12x. I have 6x squared, I have 6x, I have minus 72. These are like terms. These are like terms. So I have x cubed plus 7x squared minus 6x and minus 72. Now a quick way for you to check your answer is correct. X times x times x gives me x cubed. 4 times minus 3 gives me minus 12 times by 6 gives me minus 72. If you do the check and your answers are wrong, just do everything all over again. So let's check our answer quickly. So we have x cubed plus 7x squared minus 6x minus 72. So that's correct. Reggie has to solve the inequality. This here is it working. And from there we can see that he added 6 to 12, but he didn't add 6 to 5. So that's his mistake. So he should have added 6 to both sides. He divided by 4, which is now correct. Divided by 4 to both sides. So whatever I do on the left hand side, do on the right hand side. So describe a mistake Reggie has made and it's working. He should have added 6 to both 12 and 5, or both sides of the inequality. So whatever that describes that, we'll get that mark. He should have added 6 to 5 and 12. Yep. Or he only added 6 to 12. So on questions like this, you should always describe what they've done wrong and what they should have done. So those are the strategies you should do. Describe what they've done wrong and what they should have done. Number 12. The table shows information about the weights of 300 pumpkins. So that's what we have there. Complete the cumulative frequency table for the information. So from 0 to 5, we have 25. From 0 to 10, so between 0 and 10, we have 25 and 40, so that will give me 65. Between 0 and 15, we have 65 plus 130, and that is 190. And between 0 and 20, we need to add 55 onto that, and that gives me 250. And between 0 and 25, we need to add 30 onto that. That gives me 280. And between 0 and 30, we add a final 20. That gives me 300. You need to check your final answer with the number of pumpkins that you had. It has to correspond. So that's 300. Now on the grid, draw a cumulative frequency graph for your table. So for us to draw a cumulative frequency graph, we're going to draw the upper class boundary against the cumulative frequency. So for 0 to 5, we're going to draw 5 and 25. So at this stage, it's important you know how to read your grid. 25 and 5. So 25 is going to be halfway between 0 and 50 and 5. That's our first point. And each of the tiny boxes on our cumulative frequency is going to be 5, and on the right, two boxes will be 1, and each of the tiny box will be 0.5. So knowing how to read it is important. Second point, we have 0 to 10, 65. So at 10, we go up to 65. There's 50, 55, 60, 65. 0 to 15, 190. So at 15, we have 190. It's 200, 195, 190. 0 to 20, 250, 250. 0 to 25, we have 280. So there's 25. This is 275. This is 280. And the last one, 0 to 30, we have 300. 0 to 30, 300. Now we have all of our points now. For us to draw our cumulative frequency graph, we need to join all our points with an S-curve. So let me use a red pen now. So that's my cumulative frequency graph. So the next part of it says use your graph. Whenever you see a question says use your graph, even if your graph is wrong, use it, because you will get a follow through mark for that. So even if your graph is wrong, use it, because the examiner is meant to look at your graph and try to mark your graph because they've told you to use your graph. Use your graph to calculate an estimate for the percentage of the 300 pumpkins that have a weight greater than 18 kilograms. You must show how you get your answer. So 18, and it's an estimate. So they're going to give you a range of values. That's why you need to use your graph and you use it correctly. So this is 15. We know that every 2 is 1. Every 2 tiny boxes is 1. So that's 15, 16, and 18. So let's read that value now. So that is 200. That is 225, and that's 230. So now that we've read our value, the next thing we need to look at is we know that we need to look at this portion from 230 to 300. What percentage is that? So that will be 300 minus 230 divided by 300 times by 100%. So that's 70 over 300 times by 100%. So that's 23.3%. This is an estimate, so they will give us a range of values. So I look at that. Anything between 21 and 27 is correct, and this part is very important. So they're looking for 300 minus what you think is your cumulative frequency that you read from your graph, divided by 300 times by 100. So that's what the examiner is looking for to award that mark. For reading taken from the cumulative frequency axis at points from a weight of 18, or follow through their graph. So that's why even if your graph is wrong, just use your values and walk through it, because you only lose the answer mark, but you might get the method marks. Number 13 says Dave has these 7 cards. Which are these? Dave is going to use 5 of these cards to make a number that is less than 45,000. How many different 5-digit numbers that are less than 45,000 can Dave make? He has to use 5 of the cards, and they have to be different. So we have option A. He could start with 4. If he starts with 4, that means he has only one option. So if he starts with 4, he has one option, and the next number he starts with, he can't choose 6, he can't choose 7, he can't choose 8 or 9. He has to choose 3 or 1. So that gives him 2 options. So 2 options. So either 1 or 3. Those are the 2 numbers. Now once he's chosen any of those 2 numbers, the next space he can put a number in. he has, how many numbers would that be? So he's taking 4, he's taking 3 or 1, so he's taking 2 numbers now. So he has 5 numbers to choose from, and the next number is going to be 4 numbers to choose from because they decrease by 1, and the next one is 3. So that gives him a total of, let's look at that. 2 times by 5 is 10, 4 times 3 is 12, that's 120. Now, the other way he could have started with is to choose either 1 or 3. So that gives him 2 ways, 1 or 3, 2 ways. So if he chooses one of those numbers, so he has 6 other numbers to choose from. It does not matter because those numbers will always be less than 45,000. So that means he has 6 other numbers to choose from, and 5 other numbers to choose from, 4 other numbers to choose from, and then 3 other numbers to choose from. And that gives him a total, gives me 720. So it's either he chooses this or this one, gives him a total of 840 different 5-digit numbers. And we have 840, and that's correct. Number 14 says, here are the first 6 terms of a quadratic sequence. Find an expression in terms of n for the nth term of the sequence. So this is the sequence we're given: minus 4, 14, 42, 80, 128, and 186. And this, we need to add plus 18 to that. So that's 28. That's 38, a common difference. That's 48. We can now see the pattern, and that is 58. That's going up in 10, 10, 10, 10. There is a proof to why I'm going to divide this by 2, but that will take me another um, lesson to actually explain it. But just follow my process to find, for a quadratic sequence, it's always going to look like an squared plus bn plus c. So to get my a, I have to do the 10 that I have now divided by 2, which is 5. So that means I have now 5n squared, which I can now list my sequence now as, when n is 1, I'm going to have 5. When n is 2, I'm going to have 20. When n is 3, I'm going to have 45. When n is 4, I'm going to have 80. And I'm going to stop at 125. So this is for my 5n squared. So if I was to compare this, I found this one, but there's a linear part. And for me to find that linear part, I'm going to take away this quadratic part from the sequence that I was given, and that means I'll be left with a linear part. So I'm going to write minus 4 there, 14, 42, 80, and 128. Subtract that, and I have minus 9, minus 6, minus 3, 0, and 3. So this is a linear sequence now. So the sequence, the nth term for this sequence, I can see that it's going up in 3s. I'm adding 3s each time. So that means that that is 3n. And from the 3 times table go to minus 9, I subtract 12. So my equation now should be 5n squared plus 3n minus 12. And that's my answer. We could have done this using algebraic method. So those are the 2 ways of solving this. So that's 5n squared plus 3n minus 12. So that's correct. For number 15, it's asking us to write down the 4 inequalities that define the shaded region. So whenever we're doing with inequalities like this, with regions, what we need to do is write the equation of the line first, and see how it bounds within the region. So I'm going to write the equation of this line, and that line gives me y equals minus 3. But I can see that the region is above that line. So that means inequality that it bounds by should be y is greater than or equal to minus 3. I've used a strict inequality because it's a solid line. If I had a dotted line, I would have used just greater than. So that's for the first one. The second one is this line that bounds it, and that line is x is equal to 0. But I can see that my region is to the right, so that becomes x is greater than or equal to 0. Same as before, I am using a strict inequality. For this line, for me to write that line, I need to write the equation, which will be in the form y is equal to mx plus c. And for the gradient of that line, I'm going to pick 2 points. So I can see that for every 2 across, we have 1 going up. The gradient of that line, for my m, the gradient will be a half. For every 2 across, 1 is going up. So the equation of this line becomes y is equal to half x plus my c is my y-intercept, which is a 3. Now I can see that for that line, the region is below it. So that becomes y is less than or equal to a half x plus 3. So if that region was above it, it would have been greater than. And the last one is this equation. Same as before, I pick 2 points that I can easily read. So I can see that for every 1 across, I have 2 going up. But in this case, my gradient is going to be minus 2x is minus 2. So the equation of that line is now y is equal to minus 2x, and my y-intercept is plus 8. The region is to the left of the line, so that becomes y is less than or equal to minus 2x plus 8. And those are my 4 regions, my 4 inequalities. Y is equal to y is greater than or equal to minus 3, y is greater than or equal to 0. Those 4 values are correct, except strict inequalities. Here is the velocity time graph for an object, and it's asking us to work out an estimate for the acceleration in meters per minute squared of the object. When t is 1.5, it's at this point, so it's asking us to find the gradient for that. An estimate for the acceleration, and acceleration is change in velocity over change in time, so that is the gradient of that line at that point. So I've tried to draw a tangent at that point, which I think is kind of close. But the strategy is the bigger your triangle, the more accurate your value is going to be. So we've drawn a tangent at 1.5. Let's try and read this off. Acceleration is going to be, I'm going to use that as 450 minus 0. And my x, I'll take that as 4 minus, that is, I've taken 0.5. And that is 450 over 3.5, which is 128.6. It's going to be an estimate, so they're going to give you a range of values. So anything between 125 and 150, we got 128.6, so that's correct. Now, work out an estimate for the distance traveled by the object between t is equal to 0 and t is equal to 4. Use 4 strips of equal width. So I'm going to start from 1. That's the next one. That's the next one. That's the next one. So this one looks like the triangle, so I don't have to do much there. This looks like a trapezium. This a trapezium. And this a trapezium. So the area under this curve will give me my distance. And let's call this one A, B, C, and D. So for A, that is a triangle, so that is half. The base is 1 times the height. We can read that as 70. 70. And that is 35. For B, that's a trapezium, so it's half the sum of the parallel sides. So that's 70 plus, next one there is 250 times by the height, which is also 1. So I have that as 320 divided by 2. So that's 160. For C, we have half sum of the parallel sides. So that is 250 plus, that's 350. So that's 350, 360, 370 times by 1. So that is 310. And D is half. That's 370 plus is 400, and that is 440. That is 405. Now the distance is the summation of all of those areas. So that is 35 plus 160 plus 310 plus 405, which gives you 910. And that's my answer. We have that as 910. So we could either get 885 if you were to use a different shape to calculate your area under it, because it was an estimate. For number 17, it says the table shows information about the average skiing speeds in miles per hour of 150 people. So we need to draw a histogram. So the first thing we need to do before we can draw a histogram is to calculate the frequency density. So for the first one, we have 11, class size is 10, so that's 1.1. The second one is 56 divided by 20, and that is 2.8. Third one is 60 divided by 25, and that is 2.4. Next one is 17 divided by 10, which is 1.7. And lastly, we have 6 divided by 5, which is 1.2. So we need to look at our values. Our highest value there is 2.8, and we can now use, the highest value is 2.8, we can use here as 1, 2, and 3. That means here is 0.5, here is 1.5, and here is 2.5. So we need to know how to read each of our values. So on the frequency density, each tiny box is 0.05. That means every two boxes is 0.1. And on the speed axis, we know that each tiny box is going to be 1. So the first value we have between 10 and 20 is 1.1. The next value is 2.8. Between 20 and 40 is 2.8. So that's 3, it's 2.9, it's 2.8. So between 40 and 65, we have 2.4. 40 and 65, this is 2.5. So this is 2.4, 65 is here. Next one, between 65 and 75, we have 1.7. This 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. And lastly, between 75 and 80, we have 1.2. 75 and 80, we have 1.2. This is 1. 1.1, 1.2. And that is a histogram. The only difference between a histogram and a bar chart is there are no spaces in a histogram. And we are plotting with always with frequency density. It says find an estimate for the number of people with an average skiing speed between 35 miles per hour and 50 miles per hour. 35 miles per hour and 50 miles per hour. So all we need to do for there is to find the area, and that will tell us how many people are in that group. So the area of this one, so the height there is 2.8. 2.8 times by 5, that's 14. And this one gives me 2.4 times by 10, which is 24. So the people in that group is 14 plus 24, which is 38. So 38 is my answer. Let's look at the mark scheme. So that's 38, and my histogram was drawn as well. So that's 38, so that's correct. For number 18, it says ABC are points on a circle with center O and radius 12 cm. AOC is a diameter of the circle. Angle OBC is equal to 38. Calculates the area of the shaded segment. So we're interested in this area, and how I handle questions like this is to look at the whole picture and break it down into smaller parts. The only way I can find this area, so area of segment, is if I know the area of the sector and then take away the area of the triangle. And the only way I can find the area of that, one way I can find the area of that sector is to know what this angle is, because I already know that here is 12 cm, which is the radius. Here is 12 cm. Here is also 12 cm. So I need to find what this angle is. I need to know what that angle is. And I know that this is an isosceles triangle, so I know that B, C, O is also 38 degrees. And my reason is the base angles of an isosceles triangle, that they are equal. So yes, also 38. So I can find what this angle is. So I can find what BOC is. That'll be 180, take away 38, take away 38, which is 104. And that means that BOA is now 180, take away 104, which is 76. So I know that that angle is 76. And now I can find the area of the sector. The angle, so that's 76 over 360 times by pi. Radius is 12, so 12 squared. And that gives me 152 over 5 pi. And the area of triangle is half AB sine C. And that is the same thing as half times 12 squared, which is 144, times sine 76, using your sine rule to get that. And that gives me 69.8613 approximately. And now the area of the segment now becomes 152 over 5 pi. Take away the answer I got, and that is 25.64 to 2 decimal places. So 25.64, And that's correct. So for number 19, the diagram shows triangle ABC and triangle APQ. AQ is equal to 3AC. The point E lies on the line CB such that CE is to EB is 2:3. AE, we're dealing with vectors, so direction is very important. AE is A and AC is B. Express QB in terms of A and B. Okay, so for us to find Q to B, that is the same thing as finding Q to C plus C to B. And we already know that AQ is 3AC. So that means that all of this is worth 3 lots of AC, which is 3B. So that means the remaining part of it is worth 2B. And we now know that CE is going to be A minus B, or minus B plus A. So what do we know and what don't we know? We know QC already, that's 2B. We need to find what CB is. We know that CE is worth 2/5 of CB. And that means that CB is going to be 5/2 of CE. We know what CE is already, so CB is going to be 5/2 and CE is A minus B. So that means that QB is going to be QC, which is minus 2B plus 5/2 A minus B. It's minus 2B plus 5/2A minus 5/2B. That gives me 5/2A, and minus 2B minus 5/2B gives me minus 9/2B. So I can write it as 5A minus 9B all over 2. 5/2A minus 9/2B. So that's correct. You can leave it that way, or this way. All of those are correct. For number 20, it says the diagram shows a solid pyramid ABCD on a horizontal ground. And it's asking me, they've given us the volume of the pyramid. The base, BCDE, is a square of 14 cm. The vertex A of the pyramid is vertically above the midpoint of BD. Let's call it midpoint M. The angle between AB and the base of the pyramid is 68. Calculate the volume of the pyramid. Give your answer correct to two significant figures. So for us to find the volume of the pyramid, we need to find the area of the base. So area of base is 14 times by 14, which is 196. We also need to find the perpendicular height. And for us to find the perpendicular height, which is AM, we need to find what BD is and then half it, and then we can find our height AM. So we know that we have A, we have M, and we have B, we have D, we have C. That's 14. We're trying to find BD. So that's the square root of 14 squared plus 14 squared. So that will give me and that is 14 root 2. So that's BD. And now for me to find the height, I can draw another one. This is M, that is A, and that is B. So halfway is going to be 7 root 2 for BM, and we're looking for H, and this angle is 68. So the trig ratio that follows that is tan. So tan 68 is the opposite is H over 7 root 2. That implies that's the height is 7 root 2 tan 68, and that gives me that's 24.5. So for the volume, I have 1/3 times the base area, which was 196, and that gives us 1600.6667. Two significant figures, that's 1600. It's 1600, and that's correct. There's a range of value as well, because people would have approximated at different points. For question 21, the straight line L has equation 2x plus y is equal to 5. C is a circle with center, the origin and radius 6. So that means that the equation of that circle is x plus y squared equal to 6 squared. So x squared plus y squared equal to 36. Equation 1 and equation 2 is 2x plus y equals to 5. Equation 2. Now let's make y the subject of the formula for equation 3. 5 minus 2x. Let's substitute that into equation 1. We have x squared plus 5 minus 2x squared is equal to 36. I have x squared minus plus 25 minus 20x plus 4x squared equal to 36. That gives me 5x squared minus 20x minus 11 equal to 0. And now we can solve for our x using this formula. So for x1, the first value we're going to get, I'm going to put it into my calculator. So the first value is 4.49 approximately. And the second value for my x is minus 0.49. Now we have that y from equation 3. The y is equal to 5 minus 2 lots of that. So y1, 4.49, and that gives me minus 3.98. And y2, 5.98. So it does not matter what points you put there. So for x1 we have 4.49 and y1 is minus 3.98, and point B is minus 0.49 and it's 5.98. Check a mark scheme. 4.49, and that's correct. That's the last question. So thank you very much. I will ask that you please like the video, share, subscribe, and see you next time. Bye.